All right. We are live. How's everyone doing today? All right. As far as I can tell, we are looking good here. Welcome to YouTube. I don't always get to go live over here, but I'm happy to be here. As people start to join the chat, we're going to be taking questions on gambling, gambling addiction, and addiction recovery. So, pretty much anything you want to ask, go ahead and drop it in the chat and I'll get to you. For those of you who are just tuning in, maybe you clicked on the stream later on when it's posted onto my account. My name is Rob and I'm a recovering gambling addict. I made my last bet on November the 12th of 2022, and now I create content here online to help you avoid making the same mistakes that I did. So, pretty much that covers everything about me, and here for you guys. So, let me know what's up. John, didn't expect you in the chat, man. Welcome back to New Jersey. Hopefully, all good. And thank you for the love on the hoodie. My brother found it at clearance aisle in like a Marshalls or something. It was a deal and a half, so I couldn't pass up on it. But yeah, guys, any questions you have for me about what I do, why I'm here, gambling addiction, just let me know. And YouTube's that one weird place with streaming right now for me where there's not a huge audience. So I'm used to talking very quickly and answering a lot of questions very quickly. So if I'm moving a little bit slower compared to how you were expecting, it's just because I'm still waiting on some questions to start rolling in the chat. If you guys know me from TikTok, you know that I'll answer I don't know, a couple hundred questions in an hour. This might be a little bit different. Maybe it's a little bit slower. It's a little bit more storytelling and going deeper into the questions, which can be a good thing in itself. So if you're here, drop a like and ask a question. Let me know what you got. Okay. So let's see. Looking back to the days that I was gambling, which is now quite a while ago, I was getting involved with sports betting mainly, but by the end of it, I was all over the place. I was gambling on slots, blackjack, craps, roulette, whatever I could really get my hands on to place that next bet was where I wanted to be. It didn't quite matter as long as I was able to stay in action and find action. And that's what's really, damaging but interesting about a gambling addiction is that it's all about just staying in action and getting that next bet in and moving as quickly as possible and getting as much action as you possibly can. So for me, it got to the point where, gambling on a game wasn't valuable enough anymore. I had to take that a step further and start doing halves and then quarters. And then by the end of it, by the end of my addiction, I was just, betting on slots. It was just wanting things faster and faster. All right, we got a question coming in. Let's see. What should you do with monthly bonuses? It's hard to pass up on the amounts that you have sitting in there because I get it. It might feel like you're giving away free money that you've earned. Now, the truth is, and I just released a video about this on Friday, is that casinos give out that free play to keep you coming back for more. So, whatever you're sitting on, those monthly bonuses that you haven't spent, they've been given to you to bring you back. How do you justify leaving free money behind? Is recognizing that if you do go back, you're going to spend more than what that amount is worth by the end of things. It's their way of putting you on a fishing hook and luring you back in. So it might feel like you're passing up on something that's really good, but the truth is you're staying away from something that's going to cause you a lot more pain than pleasure. You can think of it as playing with fire, right? These monthly bonuses, they feel too good to pass up on. But if we go back and we use them, we're just putting ourselves right back into the same old chaos that we just came from. So if you're truly serious about quitting and leaving gambling behind, you have to accept the fact that those bonuses need to go. It's not worth your time. It's not worth putting yourself at risk just to collect a few extra dollars that you feel like you should. If that makes sense, I hope that answered the question. And if anyone else has questions that's in the chat right now, I'd love to have them. Also, if you're watching this on a replay later on, feel free to drop a question down below in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer that. I've really made a point of trying to answer all the comments that come in. I'm a little bit behind on doing so, but I know I have my work cut out for me. But it's really important for me to answer the questions that come in because the way that I view my videos here is like each video is answering a specific question that someone may have about gambling addiction. And if I don't answer their questions, like what's the point of me even making the content? So got to answer some people. I owe you guys some answers, but if you have a question, go ahead and drop it down below. Tristan, happy to have you in the chat, man. I've heard good things about your channel. I've seen a couple comments saying that we should figure out a way to collab. I am looking to move into a type of content format once a week where I'm doing more interview style format. So I definitely like to hit you up for that. I'm adding you to my list once I finish this live, but I probably won't push that out for a couple more weeks. I've been slammed, man. A lot of work trying to get these videos out, as I'm sure you know. But yes, I am trying to do more of a human feel and get some more people's stories other than myself. There's only so many times you guys can hear my stories before you start to tire out from them. And there's millions of people out there with really interesting stories. And the ones that are willing to share, I would love to talk to you. 28 days clean, Diego. Congratulations. And I'm glad the answer to the question made sense. Like, I get it. I used to really care about these bonuses. And in the video I made, I told you guys that I used to know my reward status at the casino, and I wouldn't even know my family and friends' birthdays. Like, I knew exactly how many points I would have earned at the casino, but not these important dates in my life. And it was just my priorities were all in the wrong place. So I'm very familiar with the feeling of feeling like you're wasting the money if you don't use it, but it's just a trap that's being set to bring you back in for more. Yeah, hit me with some questions, guys. I'm excited. Let me know what I can answer for you down below in the chat. And pretty much the only thing I never answer is the amount that I was wagering or lost. The reason being that I think people compare to the amounts very easily. And if I say an amount that's larger than what someone else lost, oftentimes people will say they're not as bad as me and they'll keep going, even if it's causing proportionally the same amount of pain in their life. So I just never dive into the amounts for that reason. Everything else is pretty much on the table. Okay, are card breaks a gateway into gambling? I think that there's a lot of things that could be called gateways, but the way that I see it is rather than calling it like everyone who opens cards is going to get, into gambling, I think it's normalizing the behaviors in the brain. So things like card breaks, loot boxes, skins in games, secondary markets, even stocks and trading, all these things are normalizing you to the risks that you're taking. And even though they might not have a house edge cooked into them like casino games and sports bets, it feels like we're developing the muscles to then be able to go and place bets and deal with the risk and get involved with it. So I guess you could call it a gateway. I think it's just feeds into the normalization. And you can even see that with video games taking advantage of people loving to open card packs. Like, look at FIFA packs, right? Those are card packs. They've baked them into the game and they've created a gambling like setting with it. So we're seeing casino games and traditional gambling starting to mirror video games and mirror these card breaks. And it's because it makes it more appear more normal. It's the normalization of gambling. Let's see. VL, did my parents know that I was an addict? I don't know that they were fully aware that I had a major problem, but I think if they sat and thought about it, they could tell that it was definitely not normal the way that I was gambling. I was lying to them a lot and then coming clean when I needed to borrow money. I was constantly watching every game that was on TV because I constantly had money on it, and I was really just stressed out all the time. Um, so I don't know that they ever thought, man, he must be a gambling addict, but they could tell something was wrong. And so when I told them in the end, hey, I have a problem with gambling, I need to get some help, I don't think it was overly shocking to them. So yes and no. So yes, I don't talk about how much I gamble a day exactly because I don't want you to compare. So guys, I can tell you, like, I was spending 6 to 8 hours per day gambling. But if I say a dollar amount, what happens every single time, and what I would do if I was still active in my addiction, is say, "Oh, he lost way more than I did, or he spent more than I did. So what I'm doing isn't that bad, and what he's doing is bad." It's just a way of rationalizing your own gambling, comparing it to someone else, even if it's causing the same amount of pain in your lives. So I never do dive into it. My first encounter with gambling, I mean, there was like little things here and there, like betting friends on hockey games out front or baseball games. But my first encounter with gambling, the way that I view it, like commercialized gambling, was daily fantasy sports. Welcome back to the chat, my friend that was here since 300. I'm happy to have you. Once again, thank you for sticking around and continuing to support. Thank you to everyone that's subscribed and been involved with this channel since the start. I really work hard to keep putting out videos, and I'm glad that we're growing this message and helping more people get in. I definitely lost more online, Tristan, and the reason is because of the speed of play. Online casinos are built for velocity. They want you to play as quickly as possible for amounts that don't even feel real to you. You never have to see that money, so seeing it go, it hurts a little bit less than it would in a real casino. And even then, they use casino chips and things like that to distract you from the fact that you're spending real money. But yes, I definitely lost more online, but I think I would have lost more wherever I was playing more, and I was definitely playing more online. Does gambling affect the way you view life even after quitting? Absolutely. So when you're active in a gambling problem, right, nothing else really matters besides the gambling itself. So you can easily neglect friendships, relationships, work, and ambition in favor of trying to get quick riches gambling. After quitting, I think that the way I view it is I wasted so much time with my gambling addiction that I need to work twice as hard now to catch up. And that's something that I still struggle with, right? I work really hard. I work 7 days a week for about 10 hours a day. And I do that because I feel like I wasted so much time being unproductive with my gambling that I need to make up for it to catch up with everyone. And that's not a healthy thought and it sets you back for sure. So yeah, I'm still working through problems myself. That's definitely one of them is that I'm working myself harder not to punish myself, but to catch up for what was essentially a waste of 6 years. Most stressful moment I ever dealt with as a gambler. Stepping away from, like, the bets themselves, I think the most stressful moments were trying to come up with money that you didn't have before Monday morning would roll around. So, for those of you, especially in the United States, with, the way our banks work, if you make a transaction over the weekend, it doesn't show until Monday morning. So on certain sports books, I was depositing amounts that I didn't actually have, but they didn't know that, right? So I would go down over the course of the weekend, and by Monday morning, like 3, 4 in the morning, I knew I didn't have any way to get that money back. I was down so much. So I had to scramble around trying to sell things off, like borrow money from people to try to get to my bank account so I wouldn't overdraft. Those were really stressful days. All right, so this idea of skill gambling. Let's start with sports betting. Sports betting has no skill involved whatsoever. You'll have just as good a result flipping a coin to pick your sports than you would doing research and trends. There's no evidence to say that doing any kind of research or having any kind of knowledge will make you more profitable at sports betting. So that's complete luck. The only thing in the casino itself that involves any amount of skill is poker. And even then, 10% of poker players will make money on any given year, 1% will remain majorly profitable over the long run. And that 1%, they also have staking deals and sponsorships to fall back on. And they play in these major tournaments and games where one big win could cover their variance for the rest of the year. So people like myself, we're not going to make money doing poker in the long run by any means. So Brad, again, I don't discuss the dollar amounts. I usually have a green screen when I'm live on TikTok that says that, but I'll gladly repeat why. So I never discuss how much I lost, how much I wagered, how much I was down, how much I won, because people immediately compare to the number. And what happens when people compare is they tell themselves they're not as bad as me. And when it comes to a gambling addiction, the amounts that you lose are relative to yourself. If I only lost $100, but my net worth was $100, that's losing everything, right? Someone could be a millionaire and lose $100 and it wouldn't matter. But if you're really experiencing a lot of pain as a result of your gambling addiction, you'll recognize that, hey, when I say I went into debt 6 times over 6 years where I had to get a second job, that things were pretty bad. I just don't want to give people a reason to go back to something that's bringing them pain because I might have lost more money than them because that's not what it's about. It's all relative to the person. It would be great clickbait. I could get more views if I said the amounts that I lost. I just don't want to blow up that way. I'd rather just people understand my messaging without feeling like I'm comparing myself to them or they're comparing them to me. Yeah, madman, you overdrew. I mean, it happened to me all the time. I can't tell you the number of times I called the bank saying it was my first overdraft and it was like my 15th. And they were like, yeah, we know it's not your first. Like, you're still going to have to pay this fee. It was just constant. Bank overdrafts, that's a whole different topic. They should not exist. Bank overdrafts are a horrible, horrible thing. But hey, whatever. I don't make the rules. How did I finally get marketing to leave you alone? Some casinos don't offer self exclusion. So, Michelle, it definitely depends because you're right. Some casinos, I believe they're supposed to offer some kind of program such as self exclusion, but if they're operating and they're a little shady, maybe they don't. How do you get rid of the marketing? you might have to go and uniquely unsubscribe from lists and uniquely block different email addresses. But from the traditional sports books and casinos in the United States, if you do a self exclusion, it becomes illegal for them to contact you with marketing materials. So it really, really depends. And for me, I stopped receiving marketing materials when I did my self exclusions. Every once in a while, some random site from when I was 18 might pop up, and I'll unsubscribe from the list, and then it's done. But it's a unique individual kind of thing depending on where you were gambling, I suppose. Do I still feel the urge to gamble, or has it disappeared completely? So I think that a one fair way to say it is that I know at this point that anytime I think about gambling in a positive way, that now I also recognize the chaos that comes along with that. So I might think to myself like, man, like it would be fun to gamble, but then what? And right now I have a very strong hold on that. I know that if I was to go back to betting, it would always end the same way. But for the first 3 months after I quit, I actually did have very strong urges to go back to gambling. I wanted to go back very badly because I didn't have anything else to do with my time. Now I'm so busy that I actually don't have a lot of time to think about gambling at all, which is a good thing in itself. But at this point, I can't tell you that on a regular day I would have a gambling urge, which is a good thing. It faded out in about 3 months for me. Guys, if you're in the chat right now, do me a favor and drop a like on this video. It should help get more people in the chat to ask questions, which is why we are all here. For those of you who are just tuning in, my name is Rob, and I'm a recovering gambling addict. I made my last bet November the 12th of 2022, and now I create content to help you avoid making the mistake that I did. I'm here to answer questions that people have about gambling, gambling addiction, and addiction recovery. Thank you to everyone for those likes. I saw them all come in at the same time. That was nice. Thank you guys. Sorry that I haven't put music on. When it comes to YouTube live streaming, I'm very cautious about what I do because I don't want to get copyright struck. They're very strict here, whereas on TikTok, you can pretty much do whatever you want to do. Very different place. But that's where I usually go live. So I'm used to talking at 100 miles an hour. This is actually a little bit nice. The questions are still coming in, but I'm not overwhelmed, which is awesome. It's very hard to avoid gambling when everyone's pushing it, including celebrities and streamers online. I understand that. That's exactly why so many people are getting addicted to gambling. Now, the problem is you could try to avoid everything, but you're running from the problem if you do that, right? You could say, I'm never going to watch YouTube because Drake might be popping up on my screen or Aiden Ross might pop up on my screen and push gambling on me. It's just not reasonable. So, what you need to do is slowly start to become someone who wants to gamble less. The way that I do that is I focus on four things: time, money, access, and meetings. You find alternatives for your time. Limit your access to money that will tempt you. For me, that was having my family manage my bank account. For you, it could be a bank transaction blocker. Limit your access to gambling itself by you can use blockers like Gamban, you can do self-exclusions on social media, you can choose like keywords to block depending on what app you're using. And fourth, you need to go to support group meetings. It's not going to be easy to avoid temptations because they're always going to be in front of you. But if you do those four things, you slowly start to have them affect you less. And right now, I can see those gambling ads and not feel a temptation to bet because I'm in a good spot. But in the beginning, it was tough and I needed to find something to do with my time. So if you are feeling like it's really hard to quit because you're constantly seeing it, try to keep yourself busy enough so that when you see it, you're too busy to even react. That's what I've done. Sorry to anyone that's having audio or video issues. As far as I can tell, my connection's okay. My Wi-Fi has been known to cut out, but right now I don't see anything telling me there's an issue. So if it cuts out, just be patient. I'm sure it'll come right back up. If you are dropping kids off and you're immediately wanting to go and gamble, that could mean that your brain has linked those habits as a pattern. What might be important to do is to start to figure out something to immediately do after you've dropped off the kids so that you don't have to think about it at all. And you'll go from dropping off the kids to the gym right away, or you'll go from dropping off the kids to your favorite restaurant with your friends right away. Like, have a plan that automatically triggers once you've dropped off the kids so that you're not tempted to sit around and go back to the same old habit patterns you had before. How long can you self-exclude for? It depends on which state you're in, which website you're on. It's all disconnected and very clunky is the real way to put it. So I believe that my self-exclusions were different from a range of 3 years to 5 years to indefinite, depending on where I excluded from. How do you deal with feelings of regret, losing so much time and money? So I touched on it a little earlier. I'm still dealing with the lost time because I'm overworking myself in the present day. But in terms of lost money, that money is not going to come back. And it's often that triggers people to going back into gambling more. So what I like to view it as is, hey, I lost all this money, and that is my traffic ticket for learning that gambling was always going to work out poorly for me. I lost a lot of money now, but imagine if I hadn't stopped for another 10 years. Imagine if I had a wife, a house, kids, a car, all these things to lose. The losses could have been significantly worse than they actually were. And that's not to say, it didn't matter because it did. And it caused a lot of pain in my life. But if I didn't learn my lesson early, then I'd have a lot more to regret later on. So the way you can look at regrets is it could have been worse. Even if you don't feel like it could have been, it could have been. Some guys that I know like to say rock bottom doesn't exist because it always can get worse. You haven't done that yet. You haven't stolen yet. You haven't lied to your wife yet. These are things that would eventually happen if you kept going. So, to the people that have experienced wins in the recent past, what I'll tell you is on any given day, you could go and gamble and win. That's the facts. But you're not supposed to win. So, over the long run, as you continue to go back, your wins will become losses. If you say, hey, I won such and such amount of money, should I quit gambling? I'm not here to tell you you have to quit gambling, but I'm here to tell you you will lose that amount of money if you keep gambling, and then probably more. It's definitely easy for underage people to gamble, and in some Eastern European countries like you, my friend, like, there's a lot of bet shops on the roads, and I'm sure just like with the alcohol there, people aren't getting, ID'd to go into those places. So, when it comes to avoiding temptations, again, it falls back into the same thing we mentioned with dealing with the marketing that comes your way. You have to slowly become someone who just does not want to gamble anymore, and that is going to happen over a very long period of time. But if you can start to go to some support group meetings, you'll start to hear stories of people who have lost it all, who are in terrible positions in their life. And that's what I try to share here with my gambling addiction story. And it reminds you of why you're even trying to stay away from it. You need those reminders as to why you're trying to leave it behind, or you're just going to justify going back to it. Yep, big wins create bigger losses because for a gambling addict, what we're addicted to is the chemical rush in our brain. So there's this period of time between when we place the bet and when we find out the result. And that is where the high is for a gambling addict. It's not, oh, I just won. It was, oh, I'm about to just win, is where your brain fires off dopamine. Because interestingly enough, your brain, what's going on in there, the dopamine that's firing off the pleasure sensors, they're actually feeling the same between the when you're expecting the win and when you have the win, it feels the same in your brain. So you're getting addicted to the rush. And so if you win big, that means you can just gamble more or gamble higher amounts and feel even better, feel even more excited. And it creates a really dangerous situation and cycle where you have to keep betting bigger and bigger to keep feeling the same way or feeling better than the same way that you felt before. And eventually the losses will catch up, and one loss could wipe out all your previous wins. It can become really, really, really dangerous. Unfortunately, there's taxes on everything, my friend. No way around that. So that's not even a topic we really need to jump into too deeply. This is sponsored by Coca-Cola, but that's a water. I got it from my Phillies game. They were sponsoring. I hear you, Bruce. A lot of times, when we're talking about gambling and policing who's able to gamble when, um, it comes down to the casino's decision to self-enforce its own rules. So if they see someone that's losing, are they going to stop them before or after they losses or before they lose? When we leave it up to, it's called the wolf watching the hen house is the metaphor. When we leave it up to the group that's causing the damage to enforce not causing the damage, do you really think they're going to stop? None of my friends are addicted to gambling as far as I know. But if you're in a position where your friends are hooked and you're trying to quit and they're not trying to quit, that could be a time to separate from that friend. If they are trying to quit, you can motivate each other along the path to recovery. You can help each other find meetings, find resources, have conversations about temptations and urges. But I think that the biggest part of any friendship regarding gambling right now, even if your friends are just casually gambling and you don't want to hear about it, is you have to be honest with people. If people don't know that you have a problem, they're not going to do anything to change the way that they are acting or talking around you. Gambling is a major, major industry. Millions and millions of people are gambling right now. And until people know that you have a problem, they're probably not going to mention, they're probably not going to change what they're talking about, you know? They're just going to keep living their lives because they might not have a problem. They might not know you have a problem. That's the danger in it. I was a sports bettor mainly, but by the end of it, I was gambling on literally everything because I just wanted to keep the rush going. So I've done everything from slots, craps, blackjack, roulette, sports, daily fantasy sports, poker. I did pretty much every kind of gambling that you could imagine. Never played Keno though. That's one thing. I don't really understand that one, and I'm glad because it is the worst house edge in the casino. But guys, welcome to the chat. If you're just popping in, my name is Rob and I'm a recovering gambling addict. Do me a favor and drop a like. And if you're not subscribed, that is exactly what you need to be doing right now if you want to live a happier and healthier life without making the same mistakes that I did. The wheel game, that has a very high edge. I know exactly what you're talking about. I don't know if it has a different name than the wheel game because it's not roulette. It's the one with the big wheel. I think it's called the big wheel, actually. It has a very high house edge, but it's very addictive game. There's a lot of colors, sounds, payouts are decent. So it hooks people in, but you're not going to win in the long run, of course. The day that I decided to post my first video about gambling addiction, I had a friend, well, I have a friend. He's in my 12-step meeting, and he was going through a hard time. I got him to come back in just by saying, "Hey, like, give it another try. I don't know all the answers, but I know that going back and gambling more is only gonna make things worse." And he came back in, and since then, he's been doing really, really well. That made me feel good for, like, the first time in a long time about something that I was doing, and so I said, "I can do this, online," and I just sat down, I made a video. It's terrible. It is the worst video I've ever seen, now looking back after a year, but I got myself working on it, started studying YouTube a little more. This is my first and only channel, and, I've worked really hard to get it to where it is. I hope to keep growing it. But yes, just about 3 months into it, I said, "Hey, I'm gonna quit my job and I'm gonna do this full time." And that's what I do now. I'm a full-time content creator. Big Six. I think, yeah, that sounds like the name of the big wheel as well. There's a couple different names. I've definitely heard that before. Thank you for the love, Tristan. I love making these videos. I do wish that I had more time to focus on YouTube because a lot of my time goes into TikTok and Instagram. That might be where a lot of you actually saw me for the first time if you're here. Um, but YouTube is the dream, so I'm gonna keep grinding at it. Bruce, really great question. Can someone overcome problem gambling and go back to gambling normally? Absolutely not at all. No. So a lot of people have this belief that after enough time and enough knowledge gained about, gambling addiction, the risks, the true odds of each game, that they could go back and be responsible with it. I've seen that fail time and time again, and I've failed at it time and time again. So typically, when someone relapses from a drug, right? Say they're a year clean from cocaine or from something like a drug, and they go back to it, they typically will go back to the same dosage that they stopped at. And it's the same with gambling, right? So someone could say, I'm going to go back to gambling responsibly. And they're going to take like $100 into the casino, but they were a $500 a night better. How long do you think it's really going to last before they pull out another $400 and start gambling that? It just doesn't happen. So if you're addicted to gambling, there's no going back to normal play or responsible play. But if you're not addicted to gambling, that's a great way to set a budget, I guess. Opinion of gambling around my household. It was pretty positive in general. I live very near to Atlantic City, so it was a big part of our lives growing up, but no one around me was ever into it the way that I was into it. When I started gambling, it was way beyond, way too extreme compared to everyone else. And so the way that my family was viewing gambling was as a casual, like once every 3, 4 months kind of thing, like a normal way, I guess you could say. So if you're scared that gambling is always going to be on your mind because you're in the process of quitting right now, it's going to feel like that in the beginning. because naturally we've been doing it for so long, we've been doing it so intensely that it just feels like, oh, how could I ever see myself doing anything else except this? That fades. And now at this point, I think it's funny to look back on when I had thoughts like that. Not that it's funny in the moment, but you know, I believed I would never do anything else except be a gambler. And now I can't imagine ever being a gambler again. You have to give things time. It's going to feel intense at first because your brain is hardwired to crave dopamine, crave pleasure from gambling. But as you give it some space and as time goes on, I promise you, you're going to start laughing at comments like that when you look back and see what you've said, because you're going to live a really happy life, my friend. You just need to give it some time and keep pushing forward in the right direction. It will get better. How did I learn extreme gambling behavior? I don't think I learned it at all. I think it was just naturally how I started to play. So when I started my bets, it was the daily fantasy sports. I started betting contests that were kind of out of my price range, but at the time I had enough money saved up to sustain it. Then when I got into regular sports betting, I started to win. And these early wins convinced me that I would only get better at it, that I was already really good at it, that you could, predict the games based on your knowledge of sports that you've accumulated over the years and knowledge of trends and lines. And yeah, it's the beginner's luck kind of thing, right? Without failure, most people that I know that are addicted to gambling, well, and everyone that I know that's addicted to gambling won in the beginning, or they viewed it very, very positively in the beginning. And the same was with me. So as you start to win, you start to bet a little more because you get more confident, cocky in it, and you want to feel even more excited, even better. The amounts start to go up. The wins that come in then are mind blowing when you're 19 years old and your job pays you $8 an hour, and you can really end up screwing yourself and screwing up the way that you view money. That was kind of where the extreme behavior came in, because as I would gamble, I viewed money with less and less respect because it came in so fast, and then obviously it came out so fast as well in the end. But that's where the consequences start to catch up. So, guys, we got 21 people in here right now. I'm excited about this YouTube Live. I'm going to start doing it every Sunday, hopefully around 1 p.m. Eastern time, but I'll keep you updated in the community tab. If you're here and you haven't yet, drop a like so that it gets pushed out to more people's feed so we can get some more questions rolling in today. I'm going to be live for about another half hour. And then, of course, if you're seeing this later on, just check me out any Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern time, and I'll be live streaming answering these questions for you guys. John, thank you for the love on the stream. I hope that you're able to get back into recovery. It seems like you probably know the path that you need to take. It does require a lot of consistency in recovery, but be proud of yourself for having the knowledge that you want to get back into it. And I know that you really can get better. So if you ever have any questions, I'm here for you. I'm sure that you know, though, if you've been going through it for a while. Do I have the same enjoyment of sports now as before gambling? No, not at all. So when I first started watching sports, it was a thing that I watched with family and friends, and I loved it. I loved every game that came on because we always watched like the Philly teams. We have a very strong passion for sports teams up here. Then as I started gambling, I loved the games even more. I was so excited to have money on them and a chance to feel involved in the game and feel excited about the game. And then when I stopped, it felt meaningless. Like, why am I watching this? I don't care about any of these people. This game is boring. Unless it's a very, very high level, high skilled game that is something you can appreciate for the love of sport, it does not hit the same as it used to. It's like having your favorite ingredient taken out of your favorite dish. It just isn't the same. But I will say that yesterday I was at the gym, and on the treadmills at my gym, there's a row of TVs in front of it. And there was a game on. It was Texas versus Baylor. It's Texas versus Baylor basketball, NCAA. And it was playing the last minute of the game. I had, of course, no money on it, no interest in either of these two teams. But I watched as Baylor came down the floor and tied it with a step back three with 5 seconds left. Then Texas went all the way down the floor and won it at the buzzer with a layup. And I like watched the crowd celebrating, and it was actually like I got like emotional. I was like, that was beautiful. That was such a beautiful ending to a basketball game. And that was the first time in a long time that I've been watching something that I didn't have money on, and I like got some value out of it. But had you asked me to sit there and watch the entirety of that game, I would have told you absolutely not. That would have been boring as hell. So there's still moments within sports that bring me joy, that bring me excitement and entertainment. But overall, I'm not going to sit there and watch a full game of any sport at this point. It's just not worth it. Even like watching the Eagles was a total drag, but they also stunk. So, you know, let's see. Jack, I'm really happy to hear that this channel has been able to help in your recovery. That makes me really happy. It's exactly why I create content here every single day. I want to help people who want to stop gambling to be able to do so. And I want to help people who are gambling to recognize patterns in their play that might be problematic so that they don't make the same mistakes that I did. And I hope that shines through with what I talk about here. Um, that's pretty much all I had to say on that one. But happy to have everyone that's in the chat right now. I hope that everyone's enjoying their time. And let me know if you have any more questions. We'll be live for about another 20, 25 minutes. And if you're watching the stream on a replay in the future, welcome to the past. I'm happy to have you here. And I hope that you can take some value out of the questions that are rolling in and the answers that I have. Just, I don't call myself an expert. I'm just sharing my own experience and my own story. I am getting trained to be an expert, but I'm not there yet. So we'll get into that in the future, I'm sure. No need to hold on questions, guys. Go ahead and drop them in the chat. I pretty much talk about everything that you might want to ask except for dollar amounts. So let me know what's up. Man, I'm used to just getting endless questions, and it's strange to have this in between time when people are thinking about what they want to ask. Yeah, it's tough. I get it. You just don't have that many questions after a while. But yeah, no, I'm used to answering like the same cycle of questions every like 2 or 3 minutes on rapid fire. So this is a lot different. Appreciate you guys dropping the likes too. I see that number going up pretty consistently. It's been good. It'll help get more people in here. Get this pushed out to more people. What's the future of gambling? I think it's going to become the most overwhelming addiction in the United States ever. People are gambling at such an incredibly high rate, and it's the fastest growing industry in the world, specifically sports betting. So I think the future is that millions and millions of people, billions probably, will end up gambling. And even if the rate doesn't change at which people get addicted, we're going to see so many millions of people that are new to gambling that need help. So I think that's what the future looks like for it. Jade, I'm happy to hear that my account has had a positive impact on you. One thing that I hadn't expected when I started making content was that it would help people to, reduce their gambling, because that's not something that I do or believe in for myself personally. But any kind of positive improvement in anyone's life makes me happy. So I'm really happy to hear that you've gained that self-awareness. Really awesome. Welcome to the chat, my friend. If you're gambling every time you have money, what I have learned from a friend, his name is Honest Personal Finance over on TikTok, is to immediately spend it on something that will provide value to you. Not useless crap, but if you have any debts, pay into it immediately. Pay your rent early. Set it aside for groceries. Have your family manage your account. Don't have that money sitting around. The two biggest triggers for people to gamble are having too much money and not having enough money. And that completely holds true. Finally, we have someone that's coming in and trolling. It's been way too peaceful in here tonight, guys. So all the time when I create content, I get all types of troll comments. It's, I'm a big winner and you're a big loser. So you just were bad at gambling. Well, gambling involves no skill, so no one's good at gambling. Or I quit too soon. I quit before the jackpot. That's one of my favorite ones to see. Because if you're addicted to gambling, it doesn't really matter if you quit before a jackpot, because you were just going to give it back anyway. The casino has designed all of their games so that if you keep playing, you will lose more. And so if you win, it just becomes a future loss as you continue to play. You will not win in the long run at all. I'm in terms of demographics at a casino, I don't have too much information off the top of my head, so I won't speculate on that. But specifically, casinos make a lot of their profits off of people from lower socioeconomic statuses because they view it as a way to get out of a bad financial situation. And it's just a way to further dig yourself a hole, is the truth. Well, thank you for the gift, Free Crypto. I'm happy to have you in the chat. I see you commenting all the time. I'm really happy to have you here, my friend. And you guys don't have to send gifts by any means at all, but I do appreciate little signs of affection like that. It really does motivate me to keep going when you guys do and say nice things. It means a lot more than you think it does. Thank you. Yeah, at a certain point, big wins, just no matter what the amount is, don't cut it because you've shifted your goalpost as to what a big win is for you. Once you've won a X number of $1,000 jackpot, you have to win a bigger one the next time, or it just doesn't feel the same as it felt before. Thank you for spreading love on the stream, guys. I do appreciate it. Thank you. Uh, if you think someone else, your friend, brother, mother, sister, cousin, wife, husband, anyone has a gambling problem, the number one thing to remember is that you cannot change their minds for them. But if they are wanting to quit, you can help them find the resources to do so. So what I always recommend to people is to say, "Hey, uh, say to your friend, hey, it seems like you've been gambling a lot, man. Is everything okay? Like, what's your reason for doing it? Are you spending too much? Are you doing okay?" Have them be honest with you, be honest with them. And then you guys can try to figure out a way to get help if he's wanting to quit. But if he doesn't want to quit, you cannot do anything. So don't frustrate yourself in trying to do so. It's a very, very tough situation. What do I think of streamers that make money gambling on YouTube? Scumbags, is the truth. So I kind of draw the line at if they are streaming to get you to sign up for a casino or streaming for ad revenue. If someone's streaming to get you to sign up for a casino or sportsbook, they're getting paid a portion of your losses. So it's in their best interest to show you a dream and show you a lie where it doesn't feel like you have any possibility of losing. Um, but if they're just streaming for ad revenue, I guess they're doing something they like to do with without really recognizing the amount of damage they can possibly do by streaming it. So I think it really depends on what their revenue stream is as to their intentions. How to regain your family's trust when you've disappointed them? If you get into recovery and you start to work on yourself, you should naturally be able to rebuild that trust as you stop making mistakes and show people that you're changing. I typically believe that people are forgiving and that they deserve second chances in themselves. So hopefully that trust just naturally regains itself as you start to live a more peaceful life and a more honest life. Should children be taught about gambling addiction? Absolutely, Michelle, and that's something that I am making a mission in the future as I begin to work with different groups. So kids are taught about alcohol, they're taught about drugs, and that doesn't necessarily mean that they won't go and use them anyway, right? But it plants a little bit of a seed in the back of their mind that this is something you can get addicted to. If you ask people around the country, can you get addicted to drugs? I think almost everyone will tell you yes. Can you get addicted to alcohol? Yes. Almost everyone will tell you you can become an alcoholic. But right now, people don't believe that you can get addicted to gambling. Some people, and they don't believe that it can be anywhere near as bad as drugs or alcohol. But gambling is actually as addictive as opioid drugs and can cause severe, severe damage in your life. You can lose everything. What does an overdose look like for a gambling addict? It looks like borrowing all possible credit lines, exhausting all relationships and friendships by taking money from people, and it can even mean insanity and death and prison, right? You can get addicted to it. And that's what kids should know. It doesn't mean that they're not going to go and gamble at some point. It just means that they should know in the back of their head that it can go poorly. Brian, thank you for being here. Where do I get all my info from? A year, a couple, well, 6 years of gambling, and then a year of research on gambling addiction and recovery. Um, so all over the place, but usually from scientific articles, the APA, the American Psychiatric Association. If you look up the DSM-5, you see that gambling disorder is a diagnosable illness, and it's also my full-time job to talk about this. So that's why I seem to know a lot about it because I've literally made it my job. Free crypto. I didn't see a comment come in from you as with a question. So if you asked a question, please just ask it again. It didn't come through. Why doesn't the government close the casino and ban any gambling? Because they're making billions of dollars by having it run. So casinos don't just operate in a vacuum. They have to give their revenue. They get taxed on their revenue, and the government makes billions of dollars. So a lot of times, state governments pitch the idea of legalizing gambling because it'll be a good thing for taxes, a good thing for the budget of the state. But is it? Because you have to also factor in the social costs. You have to factor in that everywhere that casinos are built, it seems that the neighborhood goes to shit. Like, the poverty level in Atlantic City has risen dramatically since they built the casinos in the 70s. I think it was 74 or 84. Um, like, the social costs aren't usually factored in until they're experienced. And the people that are getting addicted to gambling, there's a social cost to that that they have to spend on treatment programs through the state. It's not actually a great decision for states to form casinos, but it's sold as a great decision for them, if that makes sense. Opinion on online poker. So yes, poker players, 10% will make money on any given year, 1% will make money year over year significantly, and that's because they're also playing in high stakes games that can cover their losses for the rest of the year. They cover their own variance by winning big once. They're also backed by staking and sponsorship deals. People who are like myself are not going to make money poker in the long run. That's my opinion on it. Yeah, free crypto. I haven't been able to see your question. I got sorry for asking this many times, and now you've asked. Please let me know if you can see it. So I did not see a question come in. Please just type it in again. If you've gone back to gambling and you've experienced a loss, just what I'm saying is you don't have to quit, but you'll continue to experience losses if you keep going back. So it's up to you. Is sports betting rigged? I don't believe that it is, and I don't believe it has to be. So here's the thing, right? You could say the casinos rig things to increase their profit lines, but they can be massively profitable without rigging a single thing because they're always getting paid from the house edge. Each sports bet contains a house edge as well. I don't think sports are rigged because they really just don't have to be. I don't have proof either way, but in making a conjecture, they just do not have to be rigged for the casinos to make millions and billions of dollars. If you've experienced a relapse, and you're trying to quit, what's best to do is to figure out what sent you back, what was lacking in your recovery plan that made you go back and continue to do it. If I toggle live chat instead of top chat, I can see free cryptos questions. Very good feedback. Thank you, Yash. It sounds like you must be a streamer yourself. I appreciate it. Yes, but we got back to the questions, so now we're good. Do I speak to active or ex-gamblers? I speak to anyone who's ever gambled in their life, or whether currently or formerly. Just because at any point, if you're in recovery, you could always go back to it, and it's important to remember why you're in recovery or why you're an ex-gambler. So I'm here for everyone, just to share my story and help people avoid making the same mistakes that I did. What about crypto casinos? They're not even legal. So Borgia, the truth is they could be rigged. I just don't have any proof of it, and it's not worth assuming that. They don't have to be rigged because every single game has been mathematically designed for them to win anyway. What kind of support should you ask for from friends and family? John, it depends on what your intentions are in recovery. For me, what I did was ask for family to manage my bank account and finances. I asked for them to make sure I went to my group meetings. And then that was pretty much it. So I think it just depends on, in your recovery plan, what do you need from other people in order to ensure your success? Did I fall into the world of superstitions? Absolutely, Tristan. When I was gambling, I used to do things like hit the table. I would only gamble on sports after a certain time in the game. I thought I had a way to influence or see the odds as they were happening, and all of it was just a lie that I was telling myself, delusional, to keep going and placing more bets. Free crypto. It could be. I have no proof of doing so, so it's not worth me making that full assumption here on my account, right? Like, maybe, and it sounds like something that I wouldn't be shocked to hear, but it just doesn't have to be that way for them to make money, which is why I can't understand why they would take the risk. Hey, from Dublin, welcome to the chat, my friend. So I'm streaming out of the New Jersey area. I'm very close to Philadelphia. I'm happy to have everyone here from around the world, and I hope to carry this message to more people every single day. Yes, I am going to be doing more interview questions. I'm not sure if you were here earlier when I was saying it, but I'm looking to do a video soon, once a week. It will be like an interview style about people's gambling addiction stories beyond my own. That's definitely on my planning sheet, and it will be coming out at some point. I think reasonably, for those to start coming out every week, it might take until early March. but I'll try to get some up soon. How do I make the cool videos with Leo? I do have an editor, guys. I did not learn how to make such amazing animations within 1 year. He's very, very, very good. And if anyone needs an editor or has questions for him, you can send me an email at robodat@gmail.com and I can put you in contact with him. I will not take credit for such amazing artwork, but um, he is good. He's very, very good. Do I think responsible gambling is possible? So, Jack, I think it depends on who you're talking about. I think that responsible gambling for the majority of the population is very feasible and it's a reasonable thing to educate people on. But for people who are addicted to gambling, responsible gambling is a dream that is unachievable that you can use to delude yourself into thinking you can go back to gambling. A gambling addict will never be able to gamble normally again. Yeah, gambling and responsible. People like to say it's an oxymoron. Like to say that uh 1 second, guys. Okay. Yeah, people like to say it's an oxymoron to say that someone is a responsible gambler or gambling responsibly. Um, I like to think that too. It's just pretty ridiculous. Like for a gambling addict to ever try to gamble responsibly, gambling in itself is just irresponsible, like just by nature. Now, it doesn't mean that it's going to ruin everyone's life, but it certainly did mine. Separating your money into a different account chain, that's a great thing to do. That's one financial thing that you can put in your way. For me, it was that the majority of my gambling was being done online. So I actually carried around a lot of cash early on in my recovery. It was very important for me to not have that temptation in front of me to have one click to put it over to the gambling websites. 204 days clean. Congratulations, Alexandra. Is it risky for you to watch streams online? I think it really depends on what your intention is. So for me, I don't watch them because they never really did anything for me. But some people say that it makes them want to gamble less. Other people say that it makes them want to imagine that they were the streamer and live vicariously through them. So you have to be honest with yourself when you're watching it. Is this to help me, or is this my way of getting myself back into those mindsets that I used to have? If you can answer that question to yourself, then you should know if it's something you should or shouldn't be doing. But it's very unique. Arbitrage is not gambling. So arbitrage betting is going to two different sports books, finding differences in the line and making the same bet on both so that you profit the difference in the middle. And no, that's not gambling because you cannot lose. For me, gambling is any betting or wagering for self or others, whether for money or not, no matter how slight or insignificant, where the outcome is uncertain or depends upon chance or skill. So in an arbitrage bet, the outcome is certain. If you're looking to quit gambling, Preston, you're in the exact right spot. The way that I was doing my gambling, I was making it at sometimes it was supplemental income in my mind. And the truth was that was just a delusional thought I had to keep going. So if you're having a good time in life right now, maybe it's a great chance to leave it behind. Some countries have betting shops in every corner. Would you suggest people relocate to a new country because of it? I think it's an unreasonable ask. Of course, it would be easier to not use the bet shops if you weren't there, but you know, the idea that you'd pick up and move your life because you're surrounded by gambling, you're always going to be surrounded by gambling and it's always online. So running away from it really doesn't create a great solution. If you are trying to quit gambling, what you need to do is focus on four things: time, money, access, and meetings. You find alternatives for your time. Limit your access to money that'll tempt you. Limit your access to the gambling itself with self exclusions. In that case, you can't really limit it, but you do the fourth thing, which is go to group meetings. You need to be making it as difficult as possible to gamble while slowly becoming someone who wants to gamble less. Running away from it won't solve the problem, it will delay the problem. You have to kind of get to those group meetings and start to address the root cause of your feelings. Was Casino Rapid Spin my downfall? Interesting question because I've never gotten that one. So my main place that I was gambling was definitely sports. I wouldn't say anything else. By the end of it, I was doing casino games, but even then, I lost the majority of my money betting sports. Um, the idea that casino games are getting faster and faster is what's causing the downfall of many people. Because if you can lose your money faster, that means you can also win your money faster, right? So you can get into this mindset of, oh, well, all I need to do is keep playing and it happens so fast and then boom, it's all gone. So that's definitely a major downfall right now based on how online gambling is designed. But for me, it was really sports. How long was I addicted to gambling? I was gambling every single day for 6 years, for between 6 to 8 hours per day before I decided to go to a 12-step meeting and get help. Um, so plus EV is really interesting because a lot of people have a perceived edge in their mind based on calculations they've done. But I do not believe that on a single book you're going to find plus EV bets to beat a $1 billion corporation with your Excel sheet algorithm. That's just the truth. People say all kinds of things like, I'm sharp, I have EV, like these kinds of things to keep gambling. And you need to be honest with yourself as to whether or not you actually have an edge or you just want to keep going. That's my opinion on that. Does counting cards at blackjack gambling? That would be called advantage play and not gambling. However, that will also get you removed from the casino because you actually have a chance to win. If what you're doing, you had a chance to win, you wouldn't be allowed to do it. You can always self-exclude. It's a great thing to do, Jack, especially if the gambling that you're doing is at a physical casino or an online casino that has a license through your state. Those are great things to self-exclude from. No, I'm definitely not streaming gambling, Carlo. Don't do any of that. I'm here to talk about my gambling addiction and my story of recovery. Guys, I never talk about the amounts that I lost gambling. And the reason is because if I share an amount that's more than what you've lost, what you might say to yourself is, oh, I'm not as bad as him, so I can keep going until I get as bad as him. If you're experiencing any pain, any suffering as a result of your gambling, it is not worth continuing to do. And you will eventually get to a point where you will ruin your life if you don't leave it behind. So, what I tell people is if you've ever experienced negativity because of your gambling, it's best to figure out whether or not you have a problem. If you've ever thought to yourself, maybe I should stop gambling, you absolutely should, because no one who's enjoying their time in a healthy way would ever have that thought. So, I think we're just reaching the point where we're gonna be wrapping up the stream pretty soon. I'll take a couple more questions, but do me a favor, guys. If you're here and you're not yet subscribed to the channel, please smash that subscribe button and help to join this community and spread the message that we have here of recovery. Everyone can live a happier and healthier life, but we need to know how to do that. So I want you to know what I've done that were mistakes, so you can avoid making them for yourself. I'm pretty sure that if you're here, you are subscribed because I've only been live for an hour, and I'm pretty sure this isn't getting pushed out to the masses. So I do thank all of you guys for being involved, being supportive of this message, and just being you. So thank you. Yeah, guys, on any given day, you can go and win gambling, but in the long run, you will always lose. So if you can't stop yourself once you start, it will eventually become a loss. All wins are just future losses. So Shane, in my case, right, people ask me, would you go back in arbitrage knowing that you can't lose? Well, what's the point? Like, I make enough money doing what I do. I'm happy with my life. I would just be putting myself in an environment where I'd be playing with fire, being around sports betting. There's more ways to make money than arbitrage sports betting. It's just not worth it. Michelle, thank you for the love. I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to make this live a weekly event here on my YouTube to try to just build up this community. I want you guys to know that I care about you. I want to hear your questions. Since I'm live on TikTok 5 nights a week, I'm getting sick of them. Nah, I love you guys if you're over there too, but I want to just spread my time around and I want this YouTube channel to succeed. I really do. Do I think it's possible for an ex-addict to work at a casino? It'd be a bad idea, I think. Is it possible? Maybe, but you'd just be surrounding yourself with like the things that are tempting you, right? So in the 12-step program, they say not to go in or near gambling establishments. That would fall into that category. Depends on who you are and what you believe, I guess. I wouldn't do it. John, yeah, thank you for catching the live, man. I'm going to be live again, as I said, next week here on YouTube at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I hope that everyone has a great weekend. All right, let's wrap it up here. This seems like a good place to stop. So thank you. Once again, my name is Rob. I'm a recovering gambling addict. It's been 435 days from today's recording since I placed my last bet. And I want you to be able to do the very same thing if you're struggling. And if you're not struggling right now, I want you to never struggle. Learn from my story of gambling addiction so that you can live a happier and healthier life. Thank you to everyone that's been in the chat. Thank you to all the questions you've asked, for leaving likes, for smashing that subscribe button, for being involved in this community. You make a big difference, and I wouldn't be able to do what I do without you. Thank you once again. And to everyone that is looking to stop gambling, I hope you have a happy, gamble free week. And let's keep getting better together, one day at a time.